Hey everybody, this is the Brothers Wisp number 53. Today with me, Greg Soul, here in Texas, recovering from Hurricane Harvey. I've got Justin Miller up in Virginia. It took me a second because I couldn't remember where you were for half a second. Say hi, Mike, or Justin.
Hi. So are you
You want
sitting
Justin to say hi,
are you
Mike?
sitting in a lawn chair like in a flooded room right now?
No, man. So where I'm at, College Station, I'm I don't know, like 100 miles from Houston. So we just rained from, it was steady rain from Friday night all the way through Monday morning. So, I mean, we had record rainfall and everything like that, but we're fairly high. And, I guess land wise, we're far enough inland that we don't really, by the time a hurricane hits, it's not really a hurricane once it's this far inland anymore. So it's just kind of a tropical storm. And we were wet, but we survived it just fine. I know a lot of peeps in Houston that were displaced. Man, there was so much flooding. It's insane down there. Something of interest while we're talking about Harvey's. No, let me do the introductions. Let's finish the introductions. Mikey up in Mike Hammett up in Chicago. How's it going, buddy?
Not too bad.
Excellent, excellent. So back on to Harvey. There's a lot of people displaced from homes right now. I think they were saying something like 100,000 homes with damage, which is pretty incredible. So I know a lot of people that were hit, not necessarily really badly, but man, just a lot of people hit. It's crazy. And then who was it? I saw Disher over at ISP Supply. So he was here in the same town I am, and he said that they were staying open during the hurricane to aid anybody that's going to lose equipment or anything like that. So I thought that was kind of cool. It was it didn't feel disingenuous. I mean, everybody in kind of the business of internet connectivity, I think, was puckering their buttholes. I got a whole lot of emails from carriers. So I got Fiberlight sent us an email saying, hey, there's a hurricane coming, so we're going to do our best. I think Cogent did the same thing. I want to say Zayo sent an alert as well. I know in Houston, a lot of our customers in various places with their point-to-points as well as internet in the data center, if you had a Time Warner Level 3 circuit, they went down. So it couldn't have been flooding like fiber infrastructure, right? Because all of their stuff in ground is in splice cans and wallets, everything's sealed. So it had to be flooding of active facilities. So that means their data center somewhere went down. So it was a really bad day for anybody that was single-legged off TW Level 3. Something else that was interesting is Harvey hit Friday night, mid-Friday, something like that. It hit Houston and really started picking up. Friday around midnight, maybe 1 in the morning, Zayo actually lost a card in one of their 2 backbone routers in Houston. So they had heavy packet loss, had to shift everything off, and they couldn't overnight the card anymore because all shipping went down. And so I still don't think they've got a replacement for that module. I think it's supposed to come in early next week. So they've basically been flying single-legged for all of Houston, like pretty much all of Houston and the surrounding regions that cut through there. So that's kind of terrifying to think about, right? It's like it had nothing to do with a storm, right? That card failure just happened to hit at the perfectly wrong time for anybody to be able to get anything in. That sucks. I'm sure all of those guys are just tight as a drum. They're waterproof right now. Just sucked up, terrified.
I saw your data center in the news
Oh yeah.
offering, office space and
We
stuff
did.
like that.
We did. So if you were a customer, we actually opened it up. So we have a lot of disaster recovery office space, and we opened up a lot of shared areas. So you didn't have to pay anything. You could just come in. So if you had people that were displaced, you still need to get checks out and stuff like that, you could come in. I mean, it's not the Ritz. It was basically just nice rolly chairs at desks with Wi-Fi access, and we had some switches out there so we could throw little LANs together for you or whatever. So just trying to do our part. But it's sort of tricky, right? It's like disaster recovery companies, they thrive on disasters, right? So how do you market that stuff without sounding like a shark that's just smelling blood in the water. So it's sort of that balance of, hey, we're trying to show empathy and help you guys out, but oh, by the way, we also do this disaster recovery thing and we can help you out. I don't know. That's tricky. You have to do it tastefully, I guess. And that wasn't me writing that stuff, so I didn't have to worry about it. That's why we have marketing people.
Yeah.
It's tricky. But you know what? I had some folks. Who's your guy over at Pixel Factory? His name fell out of my head.
Scott Brown.
Scott, yeah, man. Fool shot me an email asking me if they could help out in any way, just out of the blue. Man, I thought that was like a real class act. That was really cool.
I thought he was going to call you because he asked for your contact info. So I gave him your phone number.
Yeah, that was cool, man. Because not a whole lot of people, not really anybody reached out. We were mostly just pulling customers out of the fire for various reasons. So there were a lot of people that were single-legged on level 3. And so we were running emergency connections over these guys and lighting them up with our bandwidth, because we act as an ISP inside. So there were a couple of people that were, I hate to say dead in the water. That's a terrible pun.
No.
But they were. I mean, they were.
Where's Andrew Cox?
They were inoperable. Yeah, right. So that was the only thing that got them back online. And there was one customer in particular that they were homed off of level 3, and they were using us as backup, and they have their own /24 from Aaron. But they had never bothered to try and advertise it out of us. So Thursday, the day before the storm, I'm driving up to Dallas to actually swap out a piece of gear in a data center we have up there. And while we're en route, I got another guy. I got one of my junior guys driving, and I'm riding. If he's getting the reimbursement check, I'm not driving, right? So you got to be behind the wheel, man. I'm going to relax. Anyway, I get a call, and we jump on a phone with these guys and help them tweak a few things and get their /24 advertising out of us for backup just in case. And sure enough, man, Friday night, Saturday morning, somewhere in there, when level 3 took a deuce, they automatically kicked over to us, and even so much as they opened up their bandwidth with us, and that saved their bacon, man, saved their ass. So it was lucky on their part. They went to the effort of just verifying, double checking, and making sure all that stuff came up. That's crazy.
That's, most people wouldn't. Most people just assume it works, so that when it doesn't work, now panic.
Yeah. Well, we did have to do a little tweaking to get it to pop out. They were pre-pending too many times to me. They were pre-pending like 5 times, and all of the other ISPs saw it as 3 hops away. So I wasn't advertising their stuff out anymore, right, as best path. So that wasn't necessarily a problem, but they didn't see it going out. So, it was concerning them. So we did a little tweaking and then got it to show up out on the internet, even if it wasn't a preferred path. So there you go. That story. There was just a lot of that stuff. I know the previous storm we had, the one that really beat up Galveston, we had people showing up with, we had a couple of folks show up with servers in the trunks of their cars. We didn't have any of that this time around, but I'm trying to think. Mostly it was just, hooking people up with bandwidth really quick, as quick as possible. And then we had several customers activate and come down. It's crazy. So we'll have these companies that have dedicated disaster recovery spaces just for them. Nobody else can get in there. It's set up with all their gear. Everything's engineered just for them. And some of them waited until Friday afternoon to declare. Like when the hurricane was hitting Houston, like just starting to hit them, they finally declared and said, all right, everybody go down there. And some of these people are like petroleum companies that are controlling pipelines, and they wait this late, to the absolute last second. And it's just insane that people do that kind of stuff. You're not going to take that big a hit to your wallet, I think, if you activate people a day in advance and then turns out you don't need them and send them back.
Gas has increased here 10 cents a day, pretty much.
Really? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I know the refineries went down for a very short period. They're all back online, but I think we have like a reserve or something like that can theoretically last us a year or 2 or 3, something like that. So
yeah, it was one particular pipeline that goes from Houston to Virginia or something along those lines that was getting shut down. So
Mm. A convenient excuse to hike prices. So
yeah,
it sounds like to me.
probably what it was.
Yeah, I mean, and you're gonna hear the normal stories of gougers. Some asshole will, shut all his pump downs, raise the price by 50 cents a gallon, and then turn them all back on. I mean, it's inevitable. I heard about people trying to charge like $20 for a case of water, and there's the bottom feeders that are always around. But seems like for the most part, I haven't heard too much bad about it. It seems like people are already starting to do the rebuild effort. Going out, tearing out drywall, tailoring out all the flooring. I mean, you don't get to keep your tile flooring a lot of, because if that water finds a little leak, it'll get in there and start popping those tiles up. All the hardwood floors are all trash, so it's going to take a while for all those insurance adjusters to get through, and then you got to fight with insurance, to get your money. Usually, it's just huge pain in the ass.
If you have flood insurance,
right?
A lot of people don't even have flood insurance.
I think it's like 1 in 6 people have flood insurance, something like that. So yeah,
That's crazy.
That sucks. It super sucks. I don't know, but you know what? The way I look at it is all that is just stuff, and I kind of don't give a damn if stuff gets broken. Right? I'm still alive. My family's still alive. Everybody's still safe, and that's all I really care about. So I know that's inconvenient and it super sucks, but it's just stuff. You can always buy more stuff. You can go to Best Buy and get another TV. You can go, you can get more clothes. You can do any of that stuff. So some people that were like trying to stay to like force back the water because they didn't want their crap getting jacked up. It's like, that's stupid. And then they ended up having to get boated out off the roof of their house or something. It's just stuff. Let it go. I don't know. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling about the hurricane, unless you guys have specific questions. I don't think anybody's interested in that.
I was seeing someone posting on Nanog different FCC reports because different telecom companies have different reporting requirements for outages, and so they were providing updates as to how many 911 centers were down, how many cell towers were down, how many phone central offices were down, TV stations were down. They were posting those stats for people just to kind of see from that angle what the impact was.
That's interesting. Yeah, I know the coast, like Rockport and stuff like that. I know you guys don't know where that is, but man, that stuff got a beating. I think a lot of it got wiped away. So it's going to take a while. I'm sure the damage is going to be in the billion or billions. So it's be pretty devastating. It's going to take us a little bit to recover. I think it always sounds bad to say it, but in the data center disaster recovery business, we'll see an uptake from it, right? It's bittersweet, right? It's good for business, but I feel guilty about it. I don't know. Does an undertaker feel guilty because people die and come in there? I guess not, probably, right? It's just part of life. So maybe I shouldn't associate guilt with that stuff. All right. You guys ready to get to the meat?
Sure.
All right.
I added BGP Looking Glasses to the list because you're talking about your customer that wanted to tweak their settings because it wasn't quite right. And it reminded me of a couple weeks ago, there was a WISP that had turned up. It was like 9:00 at night. He posted an email to one of the mailing lists, saying that he's having problems with one of his upstreams. He turned it up, but he's got outbound traffic, but no inbound traffic on that interface. And he called tech support. They said, no, everything's fine. Like, well, if you have no inbound traffic, or, well, very little, it was, kilobits.
Mm-hmm.
And your other, 700 megs, that means your prefixes aren't making it to the rest of the internet. So where are they failing? And so I'm looking for Looking Glasses, well, first I didn't have his AS, so I'm trying to find out what his AS is. So then I can look to see who their upstreams are to try to find their Looking Glasses. I ended up finding that they had level 3 and Cogent as upstreams, and I actually ended up finding a Looking Glass at that, at his upstream immediately. So I was like, I'm posting all these links to all these places and saying information, and the guy wasn't listening to what I was saying, but I was saying, the upstream was Everstream. Like looking at Looking Glass, I put in your prefix. Don't, not to the ping or the trace route, but the BGP section, so it can tell you, AS paths and next hops and things. Stream, yes, is seeing your advertising. So now we go one step above, go to their upstreams, Cogent and level 3. Neither of them saw his prefixes through Everstream. So I told them, that's your problem. They're not advertising it out. And like some point halfway through the next day, we finally got to acknowledging what I was saying. He was listening to other people's comments that were wrong. So he's like, he's saying that his upstream was saying that, no, we're seeing your your advertisements, everything's good. He had Cogent as his other upstream. And so they were saying, since you have Cogent and we have Cogent, all your traffic is going to go the other way. Yes, but you also have level 3. So level 3 traffic would come through there. And the other routes would at least show in the Looking Glass. It would show not the preferred route, but it would show it as a route. And back and forth, and then finally, hey, what do you know? And 30 hours later, his upstream determined that they hadn't passed along his prefixes to their upstreams, and so they were being filtered. I was like, I think I told you that within the first hour of you telling us that you're having a problem.
So basically, this is just one big "I told you so." Is that what you're getting at?
Well,
that's what I'm hearing.
Segueing into people need, there are tons of Looking Glasses out there. Most of us are using Mikrotik, so the output's gonna show something different. But you need to play around with the BGP Looking Glasses to be familiar with what things look like, so that when you're troubleshooting your network, when there's a problem, is not the time to be learning how these tools work. You should, right now go, well, not now, once you're done watching the video, go look and see if your upstreams have Looking Glasses, or find other Looking Glasses to try out. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, I like Looking Glasses, but I also really like route servers, and my favorite is Route Views. Is that what you guys use?
Yeah.
Routeviews.org. So it's basically they've got a list of routers, but I usually just use the one right up at the top, and it's like a Cisco router, and you log in with RViews, I think, and then you can do show IP BGP, and they just have a ton of BGP peers, right, where they're just accepting, they're not sending anything out, so you can really get a very accurate look of what your subnet looks like all over the internet. So usually I'll pop in there. So if I'm advertising a new subnet out, I can see, is it actually coming from all of my upstreams? I'll just kind of filter it out with the regular Cisco commands, but it's super quick. It updates fast, and I use that as evidence for customers too. So they're saying, oh, well, we're not seeing any traffic. Well, I can go to Route Views and I can say, well, you're accessible from us. I see you're all over the internet. So, you can diagnose issues too. So if somebody's pre-pinning a million times to you, and you see that they're only 2 hops away from some other provider, well, it's like, this is obviously why they're sucking in most of the traffic, right? There's definitely a preferred path there. Gives you a lot of evidence. And then, yeah, you're right. I do like using Looking Glasses, right? So most of the major transit providers, like your level 3, your Telia, your Cogent. Those guys will run Looking Glasses inside their own network, so you can see what it looks like on the inside of their stuff. So if you're having problems
from their perspective.
Yeah. So if you're having problems with a specific carrier, it's usually, route views it's more generic, I guess. It's more informational. Whereas if you're trying to get very specific inside that carrier you're having problems with and see sort of what their view of things are, that's usually a nice way of doing it, is using their looking. But not everybody's got a looking glass, and it seems like sometimes whenever I'm in a pinch and I'm trying to figure out what's going on, the looking glass in that location will actually be offline. So, that's not going to do you any good. You just kind of cross your fingers and call support maybe. But then again, normally carriers don't want to talk to you unless you're a customer of theirs. So, c'est la vie.
All else fails, go to Nano.
No. If you've got time, I guess.
Or on their mailing list.
Oh, yeah.
There's always requests of, I'm having problems with, AS, so-and-so, could somebody from, your NOC contact me?
Yeah.
And from what I can see from response, from when there are responses, people seem to be pretty good about, following up with that stuff.
That's cool.
So I guess we'll probably go on to the next one with someone else has something on that. I was at a customer / pop location today, moving some cabling around, which I'll talk about later. I saw one of their servers, and I seen it like a month or two ago when I was in there the last time. It has a text ransom screen. I didn't go touching anything to see if it was a screensaver or whatever, but it looks like it's a text server, a Linux or some sort of virtual hosting platform. And it's got send this many Bitcoin to this address, all that stuff, and it says enter your key to to decrypt your files, and it looks like someone tried to type something in a couple times because it said incorrect key, please try again. But hey, I didn't know, I just thought it was like a Windows, stupid enterprise type attacking thing, but it's clearly text based on this one, and apparently my client doesn't care because it's been like that for a month. So
so it's actually a client of yours?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So it was like, all right. Like I told the guy last time, and he didn't seem to be bothered by it. So I was like, oh well, all right, moving on.
Well, maybe he's the one writing the ransomware. He's just testing it. That's his dev lab.
True. But it was still there today. I was like, well, it's been like that for 2 months now. I hope there's nothing important on that server.
True story. All right, what's thermal inversions? What are we talking about there?
It's something that I never experienced as a WISP until this year. I've been, 14 years, never had it until now. And I heard people talking about it, and just like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Because I had, going to talk about, long links over corn and this and that. And I'm like, I've got 25-mile links. There's a river valley. All the ingredients they're saying may cause these problems. Like, I've got all that and never had the problem. This year, however, I am having the problem. And the problem is you have a link and signal starts to fade. Usually it happens at dusk and dawn. Signal fades. Mine usually drops about 15, 20 dB. And interference goes up. So therefore, your links severely demodulate or drop. And what causes that is differences in air density being like a crisp layer, not like a big fluffy cloud, but like a fog rolling in that has a clear defined top. And what's happening is that if you're shooting through that, there's a bunch of signal that hits that line and refracts, resulting in the signal loss. And then because other people's links do that too, all their interference then bounces into yours. And so, people talk about a lot for, river valleys and corn, because corn produces lots and lots of moisture. And so then, in the evening when things are cooling down, some of that moisture condensates, and you've got a warm, moist pocket of air, and then a drier, cold air on top, and causes the signal to bounce. But only on days that it's not windy. If there's wind, then the wind disperses that cloud or whatever.
Gotcha. So what do you do to combat that?
Big fans.
I was thinking, like, can I rent some rooftop space somewhere just to put up a really big fan?
Yeah, you kill all the corn. Got it.
But oddly enough, this link isn't really over any corn. It's over like suburbia. So I don't know, but it only happens on non-windy days when all these other conditions match. So that must be what I'm getting. But there are radios that you can do a spatial diversity mount. You can put one antenna up here and one antenna down here, some distance apart. I'm not sure how far apart. And then the radio is smart enough to overcome that. Like some of the Cambium PTP radios can do that. And that's, some microwave radios can do that as well. Indoor radios, outdoor antenna ones anyway. And so that's how you can overcome that, because the other antenna will pick up some of the other signal and, makes the best out of a crap situation. Other ways of working around that are simply to ensure that your links don't go through one of those layers. So on this particular link, path of mine, I'm actually looking at a new tower right in the middle of the link. That's 250 some odd feet up in the air. My signal goes through at about 100. So I'm thinking that going up there to that 250 mark, I might be able to just shoot completely over the problem.
Isn't that going to open you up to more interference the higher you go?
Well, these are just on point-to-point links, and so they're usually pretty good about blocking out interference. Interference not on the same site. Other tower radios and whatnot.
All right. So how does this tie into you moving cables on your B5s?
Well, that customer I was at with the ransomware today, there's lots of people, and I know there's been various problems with both of these products. Lots of people absolutely hate tough cable in any variety, and people absolutely hate the Ethernet on Mimosa radios. I know some of the Mimosa radios have had problems. They've had RMAs they've issued to have them come back. But I thought I was just, odd that all of mine worked, except for the ones I deployed early this year. I was having, dropping down to 100 meg instead of gig. One of them had some packet loss on it, until I looked at the cable and realized I was going like 120, 130 meters, and realized, oh, it's probably more due to the fact that I'm running way over spec on the Ethernet run, and it's going through a factory, so there's it is double shielded on the carrier, but that long of a run, it's going to have lower lower signal on the line, and so there's probably things in the factory making noise, and it does its best to keep it out, but with a low Ethernet signal, and it's probably just interference on the Ethernet line. So I finally got them to okay me running the lines somewhere else. And so now that I'm back to maybe only like 150 or 200 foot instead of 400. Oh, excuse me. Now I'm back to full gigabit, 0 packet loss, exactly as it should be. And I can go back to no Mimosa Ethernet problems. And don't know what everybody's problem is.
It's never you, except for when it is and you run a long cable.
Yeah.
But I mean, just using tough cable carrier, all B5Cs. I got one B5 link. They're all like gig, no packet loss. I don't know what people are doing.
I've had problems with the C5s, and I've laid into Mimosa chat with those suckers. They come shipping with beta firmware, at least the ones that I've bought. They've been sitting on the shelf for a very long time. They come with beta firmware, and you try to do the initial firmware upgrade, and it just takes you an hour and a half to do it.
Golly. Are you talking about per radio or just like
per
big set?
CPE radio that connects to the A5? Like, they look like B5 lights, but they're C5s. And like you'll do it, you'll straight from your laptop or desktop right into the thing on the 192 subnet, and you'll upload it, and it'll get to 100%, and then never finish verifying, never reboot or anything. You refresh the page, and it's just like, hey, upload this again. You do it again, same thing happens, and then you're like, should I reboot the radio? Should I not? Reboot the radio, same thing happens. So you contact Mimosa support, and they're like, did you try resetting it to factory default? I'm like, it's fresh out of the box. Why would I need to do that? So you do that, and then I've had a couple brick on me when I do that, and then I've had a couple they boot into the beta firmware, and then you're like, oh well, this is beta firmware, no one is acting squirrely, and then you update it to the 2, and then the 2 point whatever. There's like a firmware that you use to get past the beta stuff.
Oh wow,
it's fun.
Sounds like an adventure.
Yeah, they just released a new A5 firmware. I haven't run it yet. I think I'm still on 2.2.
Was it 2.3.3? Is that the new one?
Yeah, I haven't upgraded to that yet. Our A5 actually started working pretty well once we turned off the automatic gain control stuff.
Okay.
We turned off that, and it worked fine. That was a support that suggested that. Like, yeah, that doesn't work very well. Turn that off. Just set it to 75. Like, okay.
I saw someone post a bunch of Mimosa exploits for 2.2.3 and assuming prior versions. Some of them require you to be logged into the radio.
Yeah, I remember that one.
But then you get root access, or could execute root commands, and so it's there's a whole bunch of them. But yeah, make sure you've got
new stuff.
Good security.
Speaking of firmware, I have some old air cams and like an air cam pro that I pulled out of the closet. I was going to set it up for the bad weather so people could see, like Ubiquity stuff.
Oh, and, wow.
Yeah. So I was trying to like upgrade those in any way, and I couldn't do this one. Then I couldn't do the next one. Then I couldn't do the pro. And so I started like researching, and there's these transition firmwares you have to get, and then there's these other things, but they don't make them publicly available. It just says email support. So I emailed support last week, and I still haven't heard back. So yeah.
Well, maybe their return emails are getting thrown in the shit can. Like, I was trying to contact Ubiquity support for an AirFiber RMA, and I kept sending it and sending it and sending it. I didn't get anything back, and it turns out that it was Google Apps just chewing on the emails and saying, no, we're not delivering this stuff.
Interesting.
So you can
Is it just
actually
sitting in
log
your
in.
spam folder?
No, it was getting trashed before it even got to our spam folders.
Wow, that's trippy.
Like they had a blacklist or something in the Google Apps and it was killing it. And
Fantastic.
we didn't have the paid upgrade version of it. We were still in the grandfathered 50 free accounts. And then we finally upgraded because someone ran out of email space. Couldn't archive. So we upgraded. But yeah, you can log into their support forum and then go to my tickets and see all your interactions with them now. And that's how I found out like they were getting it. So then I just started using personal email for it, which worked fine.
Well,
Finally
my
got it
personal
done.
email is Gmail stuff, so that can
It
be a problem.
could be trashing it. Yeah.
While we're talking about Google, we have on the list, Mike posted up a link before about Google DNS servers being under attack. Apparently there's large amplification attacks heading towards everybody's favorite 8.8.8.8. You have any additional things? I know Mike's going to get it out there and say we did a DNS cast a while back, so everybody catch up on that. But any other opinions?
There was a long Nanog post about finding wherever your local Anycast is for that. That was recent. That's pretty interesting. But yeah, run your own DNS. Don't rely on Google.
Yeah. And so, go ahead, Mike.
Like as much as I say that, though, as much as I say, don't use Google, don't use OpenDNS or even your upstream, use yours. I say that all the time, not just on here, but on Facebook, on mailing lists and whatnot. And every time someone, posts in one of those Facebook groups of, what DNS server you're using, and everyone's saying, why not just use Google? Like, I post all the reasons why. I post a link to the cast we did. They're like, oh, I didn't know all that. Thanks. I'm like, I say this constantly, but
yeah, but everybody ignores you, Mike.
But I'll keep saying it constantly because almost every time somebody says, hey, thanks for that, I'm going to do that now.
They just say that hoping that you'll stop talking.
Well, it's probably not going to happen.
If evidence suggests that it's not happened in the past, it's probably not going to happen now. No. But to your point, so Mill, you're talking about Anycast. Anycast is where you have one or a group of IP addresses advertised from a lot of different geographically located places, and it will go to the nearest server, right? So I can advertise 8.8.8.8 here in Texas and Washington State, and I can actually have servers in those two places, and it will, whoever you happen to be closest to, you'll go to that one.
Yeah, they're just advertising the 8.8.8.0 Class C everywhere, wherever they have a presence, and it just uses your AS path to get to the closest one toward you, to you or whatever. So.
And then, so what do you normally do? You point, so you have two resolvers, and you just set everybody to use those two resolvers?
Yeah, I've got Unbound running, and it's only accessible from my network. So.
Yeah, I do bind 9, which I'm sure everybody will tell me how crappy that is, but it's easy to use, and
I've actually seen performance reports on like the gap between the two isn't as big as everyone makes it out to be.
Yeah. I mean, well, I've been running bind forever, and I've never had performance issues with it. I mean, I've even tested. I've got really good graphing through Cacti. I'm sure you could do it with like NetXMS and stuff like that too, but really good statistical information on how many are going, how many fail, response times, all that stuff.
There's a DNS benchmark tool from Gibson Research Corporation. Steve Gibson wrote it, Security Now fame.
Yeah, the GRC guy.
Yeah, he's got a DNS benchmark tool that you can plug your own DNS servers in and plug in other ones, and it'll literally tell you how fast it is.
Yeah.
I think Google has one of those tools as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a couple that we set everybody over to. We'll do, so say I'll have my 2 as primary, and then third I'll have Google's DNS. So if everything hit the fan and you couldn't get to mine, you'd at least fail over to 8.8.8.8.
Do
I
you
don't know
think
how
that
Ghost does
the
it.
IP addresses that you put in those boxes are used in this particular order?
I don't know. If they do, great. If they don't,
I think it's
everything's still
random.
working.
It randomly picks one of the 3 that you put in there, so you could 1 out of 3 chance of having a problem if Google's having problems.
Yeah, but if it fails going to a server, it'll switch over to the other one. Like in your client, it should. It theoretically should.
You'd feel it. You'd know. You'd get the calls.
Well, it's been working for me pretty well so far. What do people say that Mikrotik resolvers are good for like 500
They're not.
or?
They're not. I wouldn't use them.
No,
I mean, they've gotten better, but I don't. I used to use
they
them
don't
a
have
lot.
rootkits.
They
Well,
don't
they're
what?
just caching resolvers. That's all they are.
Yeah,
They're not.
Yeah.
They're not lookup servers.
Right. But like, I think a lot of people, at least on small networks, will set the local Mikrotik to be a caching resolver and let the clients.
Fine for
pull
your
off of
home,
that.
but when you have like
Yeah.
a whole conference running through it or something, it's not good for your phone.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Moving right on down the list. What I think Mike posted up that the Mikrotik WAP 60. I'm guessing that's the 60 gigahertz one, right? It was alphabet soup, but I kind of distilled it down to WAP 60. Hit the
I'm super
FCC.
excited for the LHG 60s.
I want to see
waiting
that
for
stuff.
those. I'm
I
waiting
want
for those.
any of the 60 gigahertz stuff to start coming out.
The WAP 60. I'm like, can I use this across the street outside? Is that going to
What
be
do they call
fine?
that? It's like a wireless Ethernet cable. So it's
Yeah,
got like a
100
300
meters
foot
is
limitation.
as far as it goes.
Yeah.
But the LHGs, I think, is if those are
They say
even
it's
remotely
above. Like, yeah, they what did they didn't give any limitations. It's like longer than 300, longer than 100 meters. Well, how much longer?
And then at what speed? I was like, what speed? And it depends on distance. How far are you going in your environment?
Yeah.
It's like any question. It's like
Tell us
dodge
tell
that
us
shit.
transmit power, antenna gain, receive sensitivity.
Yeah,
Tell us
can't
those
wait.
information.
I'll tell
and
you
we'll
what it
figure
does.
it out.
I think what's everybody been speculation that the LHG 60s are going to be somewhere in like the $150 range, maybe $150.
No,
Something
I
like
don't.
that?
Oh, well, that's another thing. They wouldn't tell me what the price was. They were
Lord,
like
no.
less than 1,000. I'm like, oh,
Well,
you
I
haven't
hope
had
so.
a radio that's been more than $200. So what am I supposed to expect?
Yeah.
It's just the they have the LHGs now, and those are $70. So
Dirt cheap.
it's because it's 60. It's going to make it more expensive.
I can't imagine
They're
it would.
beamforming arrays in there too, so it's like the wave 2 of 60 gigahertz stuff. That's what IgniteNet's using now is beamforming in their new Metrolinks and stuff.
Yeah, I want to see. One, I want to see him hit the street, but two, I'm interested in what the price is going to be, and if it's too good, it's probably going to be impossible to keep stock on those things.
Well, you have to keep in mind that it's going to only be good for urban ISPs.
Oh yeah. Short
And
range.
so the supply is going to be a whole lot less than probably the rural guys have on, whatever.
For sure. Yeah, distance limitations at 60 hertz, you're susceptible to rain fade. All of the good things.
It's not going to be more than 1,000 meters, that's for sure. I think we'll be lucky to get 500 out of it, but
speaking of rain fade, Mike's got on here some rain fade calculations. Haven't you already? Didn't you already have those on there? Or is that something new?
Oh, yeah, no. One was from 2016. The other was from earlier this year. But every time I see people talking about, how far can this go in the rain at this, on different email lists, same thing. I post the links, and then someone says, "Oh, hey, that's a great way of figuring that out," or, thanks for it. So I'll just put it out there again. That it just happened today or yesterday,
Mike's in it for the adulation, man. This is why he does this.
Well, no, because everybody is always going off of the, I want, 5 nines at this speed, but really the ITU rain models are crap. They don't account for how heavy rains have really gotten lately. And so,
Are you writing?
Me?
It's like sounded like someone was writing for a second.
No, I was scratching on my monitor. Sorry about that.
Scratching the sneeze off.
Yeah, for sure. Scratch and sniff. I don't know how your computer works.
Yeah.
But and so what my model goes off of is figure out what your link budget is. How many. What's your received power in good conditions. Figure out how much dB per kilometer you lose at that band in rain, and then with that number, you can then figure out, okay, if I have a minus 46 signal and I lose full modulation at minus 61, that's 15 dB of fade. If I have 1 dB per kilometer per inch of rain, then I can take up to 5 inches per hour of rain. And then there's a link to the website, which is only valid for people some of the people in the United States, but I'm sure there's other people that have that information somewhere. But you pick a local weather station, and it tells you over the span of time that you're likely to receive how much rain. 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, 10 years. It goes up like that, and it tells you, in 10 years you're likely to receive a peak rain intensity of 5 inches per hour. Okay, well, then that measured over a 5-minute interval, because it doesn't really matter how much it rains over the course of the whole hour. It matters how much rain's in the air right now. And so I think that's a much more accurate way of, as some of these links people are trying to figure out, how far can I really go? Well, I mean, that's the most accurate way you can find out how far you can go. Is you do the math yourself versus some chart.
Gotcha. I like how everything's been kind of tying together. This is really nice. Everything's sort of like flown together. The last thing we have on the list that doesn't sort of tie together is you've got a little link here about chassis-based radios. Tell us about that.
So I didn't think anybody actually bought these things. But then Justin Wilson was installing one yesterday for somebody. So I guess, do either of you know what I mean by chassis-based radios?
It can't be like just a board where you're installing cards, can it? Does that constitute a chassis?
Yeah, I mean, just think of a Cisco 4500 or Cat 4500 with inserting blades, and what these chassis-based radios are, well, that's what I call them. I'm not sure what their real name is basically that is you have an IDU and an ODU, like the old split mount microwaves, except instead of having a standalone IDU, it plugs into a chassis with a bunch of other microwave IDUs. And apparently that's a thing because these people are doing it, but I'd never heard of anybody even doing it. Aside from,
it sounds like a carrier grade,
old legacy type stuff. Because these guys it's a brand new company, brand new network. I mean, maybe 2 years old. So I don't know. They just got a line on cheap stuff, maybe
rolling in the dough or something. I mean,
what are we talking about? These sectors, expensive. Are they point to points? Is this LTE stuff?
These are point to point. I'm not, I'm sure they can get them in LTE and everything else as well, but in particular, these are.
If it's point to point and goes into a single chassis, is it like Ethernet into that chassis and then it all goes there? Are these things basically media converters where on the line card where the radio's out, it's also got an Ethernet port?
It probably depends upon on the individual platform, but on the one I was looking at, it seems like you just plug in whatever you want RF wise, 6 gig, 23 gig, 39 gig, whatever, in 1+0, 2+0, however RF configuration you want. And then you can get line cards that are Ethernet, TDM, STM, so you can do, OC48s and stuff like that over it. Like a chassis Cisco, you just plug in whatever you want and they just talk to each other. But I didn't know anybody deployed anything that wasn't Ethernet, and because then on these you have to run LMR 400 and all that, stuff we had to do 15 years ago that we kind of got away from. Apparently, people still do that, and I guess if any of our viewers do that or know people that do that or can tell us why you would want to do that instead of fiber to an outdoor radio and call it a day, please tell us, because I don't know who to ask other than a salesman, and that's not going to be a valid answer. So
man, you gotta quit being mean to salespeople. I think we as a society need to quit beating up salespeople so bad.
Actually, I did give a salesman a prop on Facebook earlier this week. He got my request literally the day before it was due, and so he can only do so much with it, but he did get a lot of traction. He got me quotes, and he got me the link engineering 2 hours after I needed it. But it was, but he was my last ditch. I've tried these 4 other ways. Can this one guy please help me? And he, if I reach out to him a day sooner, he'd have got it.
Fair enough. So again, it's your fault, Mike. That's what it comes down to.
Well, I was trying to get quotes from Dragon Wave, who's going through some bankruptcy, but they're still operating. Like they're still shipping product, they're still doing support, all that. Apparently they've already got multiple buyers lined up. It's looking good for them. So I was like, all right, I need a licensed radio with a big, high transmit power, and Dragon Wave is the only one that fits, fits the bill. And the first 2 or 3 people I tried at Dragon Wave were just no response. So then I posted on Facebook, hey, does anybody know someone at Dragon Wave? This guy's like, hey, which I've known this other guy for a long time. It's like, we carry Dragon Wave. I'm like, if I had known that, I'd have sent you an email to start with. And sure enough, within 24 hours, he had quotes, and I was in the queue for the engineering and the link, and
wicked.
But so props to Jeff Broadwick at CTI.
Oh, there you go.
I was thinking it was Jeff. He's a good guy. He's helped
that's
us
a name
out.
I recognize. Yeah.
Yeah, he helped us get a Ether Hall 5500 for our network. All that stuff.
That's cool.
Been running pretty good. So.
Oh wow, Miller didn't have any complaints about it. That's a pretty big endorsement.
I would say that the interface appears to be Java based or Tomcat or something along those lines. Thick glue. No,
don't get shanked, Thomas. Here's that.
It definitely works pretty well. I don't have any problem with Java. I mean, it works.
Solid. The only thing I have beef with Java is Cisco's love affair with ancient Java. So ASAs will run Java implementations where you got to find crazy old JREs like 6.25, and you got to install that. And then
hotels are bad with that too. If you deal with any hotel that has Opera, it's one specific version that works with it, and nothing else works. And
it's a nightmare, man. It's a nightmare. If you get it to work, it's like,
man,
you got to sacrifice a manatee to the gods. It's it's a very rare thing.
I've got a client that they were moving their desktops, several years ago, from XP to 7, and yet some of their HVAC systems required a specific version of Java, only that version of Java would not run on 7. So we have there's like a ton of VMs running. It's just, all it is just it's this Internet Explorer and this old ass Java, and it's firewalled off from anything that because you can't update anything on that box.
Mm-hmm. Because it'll break. Yeah.
And so I was like, what what does it cost to upgrade that HVAC controller so that it's like a multi-million-dollar project? It's like,
not insignificant. It never is.
Okay, I guess we'll keep using XP then.
All right, fellas, we've hit the hour mark. You guys ready to stick a fork in it? Silence is acceptance. All right. Miller, if you were so inclined and you wanted somebody to reach out to you on the internet, how would you have them do that?
I'd say my blog, but I don't check it very often. I had like 3 comments on there that I never approved.
What a dick.
I saw the other day. I don't know if my contact form works on there.
It only takes 5 seconds to figure it out.
Facebook probably is the best way to get a hold of me. So.
All right, Miller. Mike, if people are going to get a hold of you out on the internet, how would they do that?
Just Google for me and pick whatever platform you like.
All right. If you want to find me, Greg Soul, you can hit me at gregsoul.com. It's a blog which I've been giving a little bit of love to lately. I've been putting some stuff up there. I even updated something not too long ago.
Is that your QoS script?
No, I've been lazy. I haven't touched that forever. It was the Nexus. So I wrote an EEM, an event manager script for Cisco devices if you're doing transport stuff, and I updated it to actually work for CatOS and Nexus switches, so you can protect both of you can take your infrastructure from both of those switches perspectives. Whatever. Also, I've been doing a lot of LinkedIn stuff. I know I don't pimp that, and people have been giving me problems for that. But if you go to linkedin.com, you can find Greg Soul. Watch my videos, and it helps me pay the bills. It actually, stuff like that is what helps me buy equipment for doing things like this.
Did you say LinkedIn or Linden?
It's Lynda, lynda.com. It's got bought by LinkedIn, so now it's also part of LinkedIn Learning. So if you do lynda.com, you can hit me, or if you do LinkedIn Learning, you can hit me. It's owned by Microsoft now because, LinkedIn got bought. So eventually maybe there'll be some other portal to it. I don't know. But I just did 2 CCNP switching courses. Those are both up. And literally today, I finished the first in the CCNP route series, and I shipped all that stuff out. That'll probably be live in about a month. But help me pay the bills, guys, for sure. Facebook.com is a great way to reach us. Facebook.com/TheBrothersWISP. Mike posted up something about our response rate and how fast it is, and that is all this guy right here, Mike Hammett. All of the content, I can't say all of it, but maybe 1 or 2 posts a year is Mike Hammett. He's the one who's always responding immediately. He's the one who's sassing you right to your face, straight up to your face. So it's really great about that. So anytime you want to get a hold of us, and he started a new thing that I actually really like before every cast now. I don't know if he's going to continue or not, but a few hours ahead of time, he's asking, hey, what do you guys have questions about? And we've been trying to service them. And so we've peppered a few of those in there.
Yeah, actually, it's really easy now that they have scheduled posts. So just at the one time I made the very first one, I just scheduled the next 3 shows to post 6 hours ahead of time, and we get so that way I don't actually have to do anything each time.
Killer. So if you guys actually have questions, comments, you just want details or information on a specific subject, let us know. If somebody on the cast happens to have a little bit of experience about that, we're going to talk about it. Other than that, you can hit us old school at contactus@TheBrothersWISP.com if you don't do the Facebooks, but you still want to get a hold of us. Other than that, I don't think I have anything. And just thank you guys, and we'll talk to you soon.